Thank you. How's it going, everyone? Thanks for joining us today. So today we're going to be going over our CP104 review session for the midterm review. I'm looking into the crowd right now. I can see some pretty scared faces. Hopefully by the end, you guys are going to be filled with relief rather than fear and stress and anxiety for this midterm. We'll clear up some questions, go over some example problems. But first and foremost, let's just get started. So my name is Steven. If you guys have joined any of the previous review sessions on Twitch, my face might look a little bit familiar. I'm a third year BBA and CS student here at Laurier. And I also IA 104 right now, so I'm pretty familiar with this stuff. And yeah, so let's get started with our review session for today. Okay, so just before we get started, LCS hosts a plethora of different events throughout the year, and our upcoming ones are React 101 on November 2nd. Sorry, this is in collaboration with our project program team, which is Waterloo Computer Science Club and their Data Science Club as well. If you guys want to learn the basics of web development using a tool like React, come out to that. It's going to be a great workshop, and you'll learn a lot. And the same week. Actually, it's the next week, but on November 8th, Co-op 101. If you guys are getting ready for Co-op, I know it's still a little bit far if you guys are still in first year, but it's still good to network and talk to some previous co-ops who are Laurier students who have gone through similar experience that you guys have gone through. All right, so before we get started, can you guys just sign in using this link here? It'll go on your Laurier experience record. We'll keep this up for just a little bit. We can put it up at the end if somebody doesn't catch it. Those in the Twitch chat as well. Make sure to scan this. So I'll leave this up for about a minute. Those sitting in the back, you might not be able to scan it properly, so feel free to stand up and scan this. And for some reason, if it doesn't work, you can use this Typeform link, so it's just lauriercs.typeform.com/CP104 midterm. All right, so I'll leave it up for another 20-ish seconds. All right, it kind of looks like everybody put their phones away, so I think that's my signal to get started. Go ahead. Okay, so for today's agenda, just a couple things that we're going to look at. So we're going to start off with for loops, which is a new topic that you guys have started learning. So really the only new stuff that you really covered in class since our last review session. So we'll go over for loops. And then we'll go over some example problems that you're likely going to run into during the midterm. We'll go over a Kahoot in which anybody in here enrolled in CP104 has a chance of winning some gift cards. So if you place on the podium, you guys can win nice prizes. And finally, we'll go over some question and answer. So I'll open the floor to you guys. You can ask any questions relating to midterm content, anything else really. Feel free. Okay, so we can get started right away with for loops. It's going to be a pretty quick slideshow presentation, kind of. Go ahead. So a for loop is an example of an iteration loop. It goes through each element of a given sequence before terminating. When using the range operator, it'll go through each number beginning at the first input and ending at the last input -1. So that kind of sounds a little bit confusing. So let's take a look at a quick example to really explain what I'm saying here. All right, so here we can see a pretty simple for loop. This is a bit of pseudocode, but that's exactly how you guys are going to be setting up your for loops during the exam whenever you feel the need to use a loop. So we start off with the keyword for. This initializes the for loop. And then we give Python a target variable. So usually we use single letter variables, in this case, I, J, K, really anything of your choosing. And then we say in range, and the range operator is a Python keyword that allows us to iterate through numbers based on our preferences. So these preferences, range can take three parameters: a starting value, an ending value, and an increment. So the starting value is where our loop begins, and as we said before, the ending value is where it's going to end, -1. So if we give the starting value as 1, for example, the loop is going to start at 1. And if we give the ending value as 5, it's going to end at 4 because it is not inclusive. And increment is the amount we want the range to iterate by. So let's say we put 2 as the starting value and 10 as the ending value, and we want to increment it by 2. We can say, so that'll go through 2, 4, 6, 8, and it'll stop before 10 because the range is not inclusive. And then statements are whatever's in the for loop. This code will execute as many times as a for loop executes. All right, so that's pretty much all you guys need to really know about for loops. So let's look over some examples and some code blocks so that you guys know what kind of problems to expect on the midterm. Some of these problems are a little bit more hard than what you're likely going to see on the midterm, and some of them are a little bit easier, but it's a wide variety, and it'll really get you prepared. So I'll pass it off to my lovely co-hosts, and they'll take you through some of these example problems.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name's Noah, and I'm a second-year computer science student here at Laurier. So we have some example problems to go over with you guys just to make sure that you understand the material properly. So the first question that we're going to go over with you guys is to write a function to determine whether a number is even or odd. So let's do that now. Yeah, okay, so we're determining whether a function is even or odd. So right off the bat, we should be returning a Boolean from this function because a Boolean is either true or false. A number is either even or odd. Whether or not a number is even can either be true or false, so it makes most sense to return a Boolean from this function. So right off the bat, we're going to initialize a Boolean, and I'm going to initialize it to false because I'm going to check whether or not the number is even later on in my code using a comparison. So I start off with a Boolean called even, and I set it to false. And next we're going to check whether or not the number is even. So the best way to check whether or not a number is even is to check if there's a remainder when you divide it by 2. If there's a remainder when you divide a number by 2, then it is not even. If there's no remainder when you divide a number by 2, then it is... Sorry, if there's no remainder when you divide a number by 2, then it is even. If there is a remainder when you divide it by 2, it is not even. And there's a way to check what the remainder of something is. It's called using modulus. Modulus is a little percent sign. So for example, 4 modulus 2 is 0, because when you divide 4 by 2, you get 2. It fits in evenly, and there's no remainder. So we're going to do it like this. So we're checking if the num modulus 2 is equal to 0. Notice how we use double equal signs instead of single equal signs, because single equal signs are used for assignment, double equal signs are used for comparison, and we're comparing if the number, when divided by 2, has a remainder that is equal to 0. So if the remainder is equal to 0, we're going to be setting the Boolean to be equal to true, because at that point we know, yes, this number is in fact even. And we return the Boolean from the function so that we can actually know whether or not the number we passed into it is even or not. And we'll do a little test case right now just to make sure our function works. So can someone from the audience tell me an odd number? Just like shout it out, any one of you. 69 is a great number. So let's do this. So what should the output be from this test case? Can people from the audience shout it out? Exactly, so let's test it. And we got false, so we did the code right. And I'll pass it on to Mila now, sorry.
Okay. Hey, my name is Mila, and I'm going to take it over to the next question for you guys. Okay, so for the next question, we're going to do a function that finds the nth power and the nth root of a number. And so also for this question, we're just going to quickly give you guys an example of how to do a docstring. I'm pretty sure that you guys have to know that for the midterm, so we'll just do a quick example. We won't have to do it on every single question after this. So, to start our docstring off, we're going to do our 3 quotation marks. That's for our string. Okay, so the first line that we're going to say is just simply describing what the function will do. So for this function, we're going to say a function that returns the nth power and nth root. Okay, so our next line is just how we're going to call it. So how are we going to use this? So use, we're going to say power. We're going to have 2 returns for this function. So make sure to specify that because that's how you're going to have to call it afterwards. So power and root is going to equal the function name, which is going to be nth exponent. And then we got our 2 parameters, which is base and n. And then going right afterwards, we're going to specify our parameters. So we're going to say base is okay, is the number that we are raising to the exponent, or rooting by n actually. And it's important here that you also write the type. So in this case, it's going to be a float and its restriction. So a float, so greater or equal to 0. All right, and so the next one, we're going to say n, and here we're going to write the number that is the exponent or root of the base, which will also be a float, which is greater than or equal, that's a less than, greater than equal to 0. And then just a couple more things, just do your returns. So here, like we said before, we're going to have 2 returns. So power is going to not equal, power, so the base raised to the power of n. Also the type, so float. Okay, we're just going to ignore that for now. And then the root. So the base rooted by degree of n, which is also going to be our float. Oh, okay. So my mistake, power is a Python keyword, so don't use power. We're going to use p instead. All right. So we've got our docstring, so let's do this function. So like I said before, we've got 2 parameters. We've got our base and we've got our exponent. What we want to return is going to be the power and the root. So how do we do that? It's just 2 simple lines. So what we're going to do is we're going to say p equals to the base to the power of the exponent, which in this case we have n. So the the two symbols are going to be how you guys represent a power in Python. That's just some simple syntax for you guys make sure that you know. So that's going to be our power. And so now we're going to go into the root. So how do we solve for the root? Using power and exponent is we're going to do the base to the power. And then we're going to say 1 divided by n. That's how we're going to get the two values that we want. And so now we have our return right here. So what are we returning again? The power and the root, that's what we're solving for. So you got power and we have root. So here is our function. Now let's just run it and make sure that everything works properly. So in order to run it, we're going to use this call statement that I had right here. So we have that right here. And then in our base, let's say for the example, we do, let's say 2. And let's say our exponent, we do 3. And let's print. So we're going to print our power, as well as we're going to print our root. So let's run that. And what do we get? So we get a power of 8 and then the root of 1.2599 and etc. If you guys can see that. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Before I incorrectly said that power was a Python keyword. It must not be because it worked. But when I was trying to make the problem, it was giving me an error when I used power. So it's probably just me making some other error. That's on me. My bad. But yeah, the next example problem we're going to do is writing a function which concatenates two strings together. And string concatenation is literally just putting two smaller strings together to make a bigger string. So like, let's say you have a first string, and it's like, hello, my name is, and the second string is Noah. If you concatenate the two of them together, it's just a bigger string that is, hello, my name is Noah. So it's not too hard of an idea. And because it's such an easy idea, we can actually just do it in one line. So we can literally just return string 1 plus string 2, and it'll be good, because in Python, it literally lets you, to concatenate two strings, it lets you do it with the plus operator, the same way that you can add two numbers together using the plus operator. And we're going to do a little test case. So let's do print. Sorry, can you hold it? Thank you. Concatenate two strings. So, and the sample output of the output of this should be, hello, my name is Noah, because we're just concatenating the two strings. And what we get, hello, my name is Noah. So you see how easy it is to concatenate strings with just one little plus sign.
Thanks, Noah. Okay, so for the next question, we're gonna do generating a function, to generate the sum of all even numbers from 2 to n. So what we're gonna start off doing with this one is, so we got our n right here. So we have one parameter, which is gonna be our n, and what we're gonna use later on, it'll be our end value for when we do our for loops. But what we're gonna start with first is, so we're gonna assign a variable to what is gonna hold all the sums from 2 to n. So we're just gonna label that as total right now, and we're gonna have that as 0. And right away, I say it's just good practice. The minute that you know what you're gonna return, just write it in your return statement. So we know we're gonna return total, so we're gonna say return total. So now we have total is equal to 0, and we've got return total at the bottom. So we want it to 0, just to say again, because that's gonna be the sum, so we need it starting from 0. So where we're gonna go into our for loop now. So we're gonna say for I in range. So just in case if any of you didn't know, I can just be any variable. So we can have, it doesn't have to be I, it could be J, it could be U, it could be whatever you want it to be. We're just gonna have it as I for now, and it's basically our counter, right? So we got for I in range, and now we have, so range can have 3 different parameters. It can have the start, stop, and step, right? So we want our function to start from 2 and go to n. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start it at 2, and then we're gonna say n plus 1. So does anyone know why we do n plus 1 and not n? Okay. Yes. Exactly. So basically, if we don't put the plus 1, it's going to go to n, essentially, it's going to start from 2 and essentially go to n minus 1. So it's not going to include that n. But we want it to include that n, so we're going to put a plus 1. So we have 2n plus 1, and then we're going to have a step of 2. So the problem is asking us to find the sum of all even numbers. So if we have a step of 2, it'll go 2, 4, 6, all the way up until the n. So we're going to have a step of 2, and then we're going to say, oops. And then now we're going to add to our total to find our sum. So we're going to say total. Okay, so there's 2 ways we can do this right now. So I'll show you both ways. We can do total plus equals I, or I'll write a comment for you guys. We can also do total, which is, this is the equivalent to writing total equals total plus I. It's just a shorter way of doing it. And then that is our function. So let's run it really quickly and let's kind of walk through what just happened. So let's go. So we get a total of 30. And how did we get that? So our counter said, so start from I, which is going to be 2. So it's going total equals 2 plus 0, which is 2. And now it's going to go again. It's going to go plus 2. So now our counter, our I is at 4. Then it's going to go add to the previous total, which was 2, add a 4. Then it's going to go 6, right? And that's how it's going to keep going. It keeps adding the previous value before it, and it's going to go all the way up until 10. Actually, it's going to go all the way up until 11 because we have the n plus 1, right? So we're going to go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 added. And yeah, that is function. I'm going to pass it off to Noah for the next one.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, so for the next function that we're going to write, it is to write a function to calculate the mean of n user inputted numbers, and it's going to return an integer value. Okay, so yeah, and we know that n is the total number of values. That is our parameter, is the total number of values, and we're going to ask for the values to add to the total within the function, and then we'll find the average of all the added values. So right off the bat, we're going to make a variable for the total, which will initialize to 0 because we haven't added anything into the total yet, so it just makes most sense to do it for 0. And then if we want to do a process that is the same a certain amount of times, the best way to do it is with a for loop, because with a for loop, you're literally saying, for this amount of times, do these things. So we'll do it with for I in range n, and we do it because we want it to happen n amount of times because we have n values total, so we want to ask for values from the user a total of n times. So we do num equals to we really do. So we do input enter number. So in input it will get a string value of what is inputted by the user into the terminal, and then we want it to be an int because we want to be adding these to a total, and then we divide it. So we have to put the int around the input prompt. But yes, we ask the user to enter a number, and then we do total. Here, can you hold it?
Yeah, of course.
So the total is plus equal to number. As we went over the plus equal notation, we're literally just saying total is equal to itself plus the number. And we do this process, and we replicate it, and we do replicate the process n times, so we make sure to ask for user values n times, and then we know how to calculate a mean. Calculating a mean is the same as calculating an average. The word mean and average mean the same thing, and we know to calculate an average, you take the total, and then you divide it by the number of numbers and totals. So we'll just do mean is equal to total divided by n. But the thing is, we're returning an integer, so we have to use single slash division and not double slash division, because if we're using double slash division, then we would return an integer. Single slash division tells Python to just return a whole number. So we just do total divided by n, and then we're going to return the mean because we want to return the mean that we just calculated. And so let's do a test case. So let's do a test case, and let's say that we ask for 5 values from the user. All right, so let's enter a number. Let's say 4. Let's do another one. Let's say 8. Let's do another one. Let's say 12. Let's do 16 and 20. So that'll be 24. 40, 60, 60 divided by 5. So the average would be 12. And then, yeah, it literally says 12.0. And we didn't, so in this case, the average was like perfectly 12. But let's say if we try it for other numbers where the average should be a decimal. So let's try like 2, 7, 7 again. So it would be 3. Actually, no, I'll just do 0 and 0. And then, yeah. Oh, no, that's not good. Let's try it again. 2. What? And, oh, God. Yeah, sorry. I think we're gonna move on to the next one. It worked, yeah.
Okay, so for the next one, let's do something a little bit different. So I have kind of a multiple choice question here. I want you guys to just, oh, can you guys see all the code? Okay, I want you guys to read the code and just give me, like, what answer do you think it'll be? Anyone? Just, like, yell it out. A, B, C, or D. Can you see it? Just yell something, whatever you want. D? Are we going with D? B? B. Okay. All right. So, actually, let's see what the actual answer is. And it is not B. So it is A. So let's kind of like go through this really quickly. So basically what the greater than sign means is going to be right alignment, right? So the 20 is going to represent the amount of spaces that we're gonna have in total. So what we're saying is right alignment, there's gonna be 20 spaces. So from the x equals to the end of the 9 over there, 20 spaces, and then the dot 2 is gonna represent 2 decimal places afterwards, right? So you guys all, well, maybe not all, but majority of you chose B. So you chose the entire number, which is incorrect because we want 2 decimal places. So I guess that could be like your first little hack would be to look at the 0.2 and then see automatically that it's going to be 1.29. Oh, wait. Well, actually, no, I totally lied. This would be an error. This isn't even on here because it doesn't show the amount of spaces. So actually, correct answer is C. That's my mistake. I didn't even see that.
Actually printed, it's not an error. It will be x
Or,
equals 1.29,
yeah.
but the Google sheet automatically
None of the
separates all
above.
extra space, unfortunately.
So this
The answer is none of
yeah.
the above. It's a trick question.
it's a trick question. Yeah, it's going to be none of the above because none of the answers have all the spaces that we need in front of the 1.29. But yeah, it's going to be that. There you go.
So, okay, identify 3 errors in this code and fix them all below. So, what are some errors that the audience sees? In the hat. I'm sorry, what? I didn't hear you. So yeah, so you can't start the function name with a number in it. That's true, but you could call it function 1. You just couldn't call it one function, but that is true. Anybody else? Aside from Steven, anybody else maybe?
Just you guys can like yell it out.
Yeah, you can yell it out.
Have something in mind.
I'll give you a little hint. There's a difference for using equal signs for comparisons and for assignment. Yeah, in the hat again. Yeah, exactly. Good. Anybody else? Steven. That too actually. Oh no, never mind. That is allowed. um um I yeah, that it, yeah. Yeah, that's an error. Um I can think of another, but that nobody has said. Can someone maybe who's not me think of it? Sorry. Jacob.
This one's a little sneaky, but there's a colon missing.
Exactly. Yeah. Hooray for Jacob. Yeah, those were all the errors that I was seeing in total. I don't believe there are any more, but if anyone sees something they think is an error, call it right out. Don't hesitate to speak. We're all here to learn. Why don't we fix the errors right now? Let's make it run. I agree. Okay. So let's pick a new name for one function because that was not a good name for it. So let's do function 1, I guess, 'cause that's like the closest. I can do code in here and run it, right? Or yeah, okay. So here, could you hold the mic? Sorry. Thank you. So even though function 1, because you want to name functions in like a descriptive way, so function 1 isn't the best name for a function usually, but we want to do something as close to one function that will still work. So function 1 will have to suffice. So yeah, we can use keywords for variable assignment apparently. So we'll do it because we want to try and keep it as close to the original as possible. And then, So if I is equal to num, what? Oh, true. I was testing you guys there, but only Jacob caught it. If I is equal to letter, then we'll do int. So we meant to use the assignment and not the comparison equality. So int equals int plus 1. And like, you just because you can name your variables int apparently does not mean you should. That's really bad practice to name something after a keyword. Like, you're just going to confuse yourself and other people. So don't. But yeah, and then we'll return the int. And so let's do a test case, print function 1 of, we'll do Billy, and we'll do 2. And, oh no, it has to be a letter. That's my bad again. We'll do I. Oh no. I. And yeah, I returned the index of where I is located in the word, the name Billy.
Okay, I think we have time left for one more question. So the next one we're gonna do is just another for loop. So here it is. So what will the output of this function be? What do you guys think? Any ideas? No? Yes? Maybe? Okay. Let's go through and see. And then we'll talk about it a little bit. So the output's going to be 4. Was that what you guys had in mind? Yeah? Not sure I had it in mind. That's good. Perfect. Okay. So let's discuss it a little bit. Why is it going to be 4? So starting off, we have our midterm question with 2 parameter, our function with 2 parameters. So num1 and num2. So it's similar to the one that I did before with the for loop, you know, the one with the increment of 2, except this time there's no step. So what we're doing here is, again, we're going to sum the total. So we're going to say for I in range. We're starting at 1 this time, and we're going to go to num1. So here we have the call, right? So our num1 is going to be 10. So we're going to go from I to 9, remember, because we don't take the last value or the value above. So we're going to go from 1 to 9. If num of 2, that's a 2. So if 20 modulus I equals 0. So our I, we're starting at 1. So modulus 1, yeah, 20 modulus 1 is 0. So now we're going to go sum equals sum plus 1. So that line is true, so it's going to go to the second line. So now our sum goes up to 1. Remember that. So our sum is 1 right now. So we're going to increment. So now we're going to go for I in range. It's going to go to 2. So now we're going if 20 modulus 2 equals 0. It equals 0 again. So we're going to add plus 1. So now our sum is 2. Again, now we're going to go for I in range. So I is now 3. So if 20 modulus 3 is 0, false. It's not 0. So it's going to skip that line, and it's going to go again. Now I is 4. So if 20 modulus 4 equals 0, is that true or false? True. Right on. So now our sum is going to be 3. And then we're going to go again. For I is now what? 5. I is 5 now. So 20 modulus 5 equals 0. True. So the sum is going to go up again. So now we're at a sum of 4. And then the loop is going to keep going. But basically we know, so our I was 5. So 20 modulus 6, false. 20 modulus equals 0. 20 modulus 6 equals 0 is false, 20 modulus 7 equals 0 is false, 20 modulus 8 equals 0 is false, and 20 modulus 9 is false. So we have our function sum, which is going to be our return value sum, which is going to be 4. Do we have any questions about that? Okay, perfect. So that's going to conclude our interactive examples, and I'm going to pass it over to Stephen right now to take us to the Kahoot, where you guys may win some good prizes.
I'm back, guys. I'm back. Hold the applause. I've heard it all before. Okay, yeah. So just a couple quick rules before we get started. Kahoot's going to be 10-ish questions. Make sure you put your name as your first name and to be qualified to win any prizes. Sorry for you guys at the very back. Got to be enrolled in CP104 or 103. So, and Twitch chat, you guys can definitely participate as well. We'll get the gift cards to you, no problem. So, make sure everybody get into this group chat, Kahoot, sorry. Okay, pin is on the screen. You guys can also scan the QR code. If I don't think anybody's visually impaired, but if they are, the pin is 8973850. Again, that is 8973850. You guys are going to have to excuse me if I bust a move to this music. Who turned it down? Come on, turn it back up. Guys, we upgraded our Kahoot account, so 200 of you can join this. I'm trying to get at least halfway there, so join up. Sorry if the Halloween theme scared any of you guys. I really didn't mean for that to happen. I'm afraid to say I don't think Stephen Goat is going to be joining this time, just because his first name's only. But if that person is here, I'll give them the biggest hug. But if they are joining us on Twitch, Stephen Goat, you have my heart. All right, so we'll wait 30 more seconds, just for everybody in the Twitch chat. Maybe they're a bit delayed to get into this as well. Nosh, I see you giggling in the back there. You're not slick, bro. Also, I'm sorry to half of you guys who got the really weird looking emojis. That's not on me. Just blame Kahoot for that. Lapika, I don't know why you're a hamburger. I don't know. And just to repeat one more time, if you guys don't have usernames that are your name, you guys won't be eligible for prizes just because we can't really figure out who you are. So if you guys want to win a prize and you're confident in your Kahoot skills, make sure it's your first name as your username. All right, so people are still joining. I'll give it another 30 seconds before we start. All right, is everybody who's here good? Are you guys all good? Raise your hands. Good? Yeah. If anybody's not good, let me know. Okay, then I think we can get started. Or, actually, hold on. One person join. We'll give it 5 more seconds. Cool down. Subtrain. All right, let's get started. Guys, this is for big prizes. What will this code return when executed? A is equal to 3, B is equal to 10, C is equal to 15, and the result is A not equal C and not B less than or greater than C. Oh, okay. I don't know if there's a way to increase the time on the questions, but I don't think a lot of you answered. But just a quick reminder, these are all very, very similar to midterm multiple choice questions that you could be getting. Some of them are a little bit harder than midterm multiple choice questions, but if you guys know the answer to a vast majority of these, you guys will be really good for the multiple choice on the midterm. So same question again, different chunk of code. So remember the tip that Mila told you, if you see a decimal place in the F string. Yes, the 21 of you who got that correct. It is correct because when we say 0.0f, it means we are rounding to 0 decimals. What is the difference between the single slash operator and the double slash operator? Well done, well done. So let's look at the podium right now. Lil N is number 1. I don't know if that's a first name, but all right. Okay, so how would we write this code using a for loop? I don't know why Kahoot did this with my answers, but these are, the prints are supposed to be on the next line down. So just forget about that. Ooh, 5 people got it right. That's not very good, guys. Reno, well done. First person up there. Triple quotation marks can only be used on strings that are more than 1 line in length. True or false? Guys, keyword here is only. That is right. So triple quotation marks can hold strings that are more than 1 line in length, but they do not necessarily need to be used exclusively on multi-line strings. You can use a single line with triple quotes. Again, the bottom right should be on separate lines, so keep that in mind. Or sorry, bottom left. Or no, bottom right, bottom right, bottom right. Ooh, okay, so before we skip this, let's just quickly review why a lot of you guys got that wrong. Do I have a marker here? I do not. Well, the question was, it was a bunch of if statements, and then after the if statement, there was also another print statement. So anything that executes within the if, elif, or else tree, so whatever executes, one of those will execute, and then anything after that will also execute. So I think like a lot of you guys put first, so that is correct. The answer that you get just from the if, elif, or else tree of statements will be first, but there was also another print statement after them that said print fifth. So regardless of what happened in the if or else clauses, that print fifth would print. So regardless of what our value was at the start, let's say, I think if we put 4 in that, it'll return 4th or something. But if we put 4 into that, it'll return 4th, and then automatically it'll print 5th again, just because it was outside of the if or else, so it'll run automatically. Okay, so this is very, very similar to one of the previous questions that we did, but just look closely at it. Take your time. So the correct answer was actually 4, and this is the case because there's a value error. So yeah, so this was the question. We have a decimal, which is 123.456, and then we begin formatting it, but then we put a D. D means integer. So when Python sees a D when inside of your F string, it thinks that you're going to be formatting an integer, which we aren't. So Python doesn't really understand why you passed it a float. It gets upset and was like, why didn't you pass me an integer? So for this to execute and actually return 1, 2, 3, as a lot of you said, you'd have to change the D to an F, as we saw in the last question. So just keep that in mind if you're ever asked a question like this. So how would you define a function named add numbers that has no parameters in Python? Yeah, well done to the 3 people that got it wrong. It's okay, but just remember that when you're defining functions, you have to include parentheses regardless if you are giving or passing parameters. So just keep that in mind. So how many times will this for loop execute? So these 2 answers here, if you guys can't see them in the back, it's 5 and 3. Yes, well done. This is the case because for loops, or the range function more specifically, is not inclusive of our end parameter. To those who said it depends what value I is set to initially, I will always be initialized in our first iteration of the for loop as our starting parameter. So keep that in mind. So I is always going to be set to 1 regardless. So if we have I equal to 10 before we do this for loop, I will get set back to 1 in Python. So keep that in mind. Well done. Rena is still in first place, barely. How many functions can be imported from a file into another function? So yes, the answer is unlimited. Well, not technically unlimited, but however many functions you have in the function that you're importing from. So let's say we have a file called functions and we want to import it to a file called T1. In T1, we can say from functions import whatever the function name is called, and we can do that as many times as we want. Really the only limitation on that is how many functions we actually have in the functions file. Okay, so that's all the Kahoot questions we have for you guys today. Let's see where you guys placed and who's going to get some prizes. So in third place, we have Kyler. If they're here, well done. Rena in second, also well done. This might not be good. Okay, so it looks like Lil N came first, but loser. Okay, so it said Thomas came fourth, so we're just going to take him as the third prize winner. So Rena, Kyler, and Thomas, congratulations. If you guys are all enrolled in CP103 or 104, you guys will be eligible for the prizes. And that kind of wraps up our being LCS's section of this midterm review. So we're going to open the floor to you guys to ask some questions. Content related, midterm related, not related. Yeah, I'll open the floor to you guys. Whatever questions you have, feel free to ask them. We'll answer them. We can keep an eye on Twitch chat as well. Yeah.
So are there any Kahoot winners in the room right now? If so, you can come forward. No? 1, 2? All right, come on up. We'll take your name and make sure you're enrolled, and then we can get you those gift cards.
Well done, guys. Everybody give them a round of applause.
No, we just need your name and student number, and then we can check if you're enrolled, and then we'll hit you up on Discord. Yeah.
And all you guys here, if you guys have any questions, any at all, feel free to ask. tough crowd. Holy. Also, there's still food in the back. Twitch chat, we can all laugh at them. They did not get free food. But yeah, everybody feel free to take seconds if you already went to get food. There's plenty left. We don't have anything to do with it after you guys are gone. So, and it looks like most of you guys are packing up. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. I wish you the best of luck on your exam. I know all of you guys will do great.